Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm Dr. Rhoda Bernard, founding managing director of the Berklee Institute for Accessible Arts Education and the assistant chair of the music education department at Berklee College of Music. And I am proud to present this podcast featuring disabled artists and arts educators. We are inviting artists with disabilities to be guest hosts for the Able Voices podcast. Today's guest host is Rivky Grossman. Rivky is a New York City-based singer-songwriter, recipient of the New York Arts Grant, has been nominated for the IMEA Awards, and has been selected for the New York Musical Theater's top female finalists in 2022. Her song Hear Me Honey was produced by Grammy-winning Amy Lee of Evanescence. Rivky's music has appeared on PBS's Mysteries of Mental Illness. Her career jump-started composing for Off-Broadway, meeting her friend and cellist Brian Saunders, releasing their first album, inviting them to the Kennedy Center, and stages featuring Suzanne Vega. Other projects include co-creating a musical currently in development with playwright Vincent Grappelli. Rivky currently hosts Melody Left Behind, celebrating performers living with schizophrenia, psychosis, autism, and those who experience the stage just a little differently, pushing the boundary to welcome more neurodiverse inclusion on mainstream music stages, which often doesn't exist for every unique artist.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm your guest host today, and my name is Rivky. My pronouns are she, they. I'm queer, non-binary, light-skinned with auburn short hair, and beautifully flabby around my tummy and hips. And thanks so much for joining us as we continue to celebrate and spotlight disabled artists. I'm a disabled artist myself, and I'll be speaking with disabled artists. And today on our segment, I'll be introducing you to Kemal Gorey. Born in Istanbul in 1989, Kemal Gorey is visually impaired, and his childhood dream was to score music for films, TV, and video games. And now he's a professional composer and disability activist collaborating with organizations like the AAF, which is Able Artists Foundation, and RAMPed. He started musical training with piano lessons at the age of 6, continued piano until his university years, performed in polyphonic choirs at primary school, and decided to go to a fine arts high school at the age of 14 with a dedication to be a professional musician since his childhood years. Kemal studied on cello in the Fine Arts High School and also continued piano training and performed in the school polyphonic choir and school orchestra, and also conducted many seminars for younger music students. And in 2013, he completed his undergraduate at Kocaeli University Fine Arts Faculty Music Department. He performed in numerous concerts as a pianist and soloist during his university education, and also studied on vocal training. And between 2014 and 2019, he worked as an arranger, session musician, ghostwriter, right after graduation. He composed and arranged different tracks for films, commercials during these 5 years. In 2020, he was named as the grand prize winner of the AAF Song Contest 2020 for musicians with disabilities. And in 2021, invited to the contest jury of the AAF 2021 Song Contest for musicians with disabilities. And in 2022, he worked as a composer, assistant, and additional music writer with Stephen Letnes in the documentary project called Surpassing Sight. I think we're going to let Kemal fill in the rest. So hello, Kemal. Welcome to our show. We're so glad to have you here today.
Oh, it's my privilege. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you got your start. How did you get to where you are today?
Of course, with a little bit audio description. My name is Kemal Gorey. He, him, brown hairs with grays in it, and I have fancy glasses. I identify as blind and a professional media composer, as you mentioned in your brilliant introduction. So, being a musician, as you know, it's always a passion you can't run away. So, if you fell in love with this chaotic nightmare style profession, there's no way out.
Indeed,
Somehow,
chaotic is a perfect word for it.
yeah, it's like a toxic relationship, right? You always feel into you always want to play with your instruments, always work harder and harder, keep writing music, and there's nothing else you want to do, and you
Mhm.
feel really, how can I say, uh, tired and even more tired, but there's no way out.
Yes.
It's all being musician, so everybody knows about that.
I don't know if in Istanbul they use the phrase burnout, but I don't know if you're familiar with the word burnout, but
In
that's pretty
Yeah,
much describes the tired aspect of it.
yeah. In
But anyway, go
Istanbul, we
ahead.
are the term burnout. So
But anyway, please continue. Yeah.
yeah, of course. So, and I have a classical training. So, in classical training can be really limiting time to time. In my country, our school école, let's say, our educational école, when it comes to music, still follows the 19th century traditions, the
Mhm.
conservatory tradition,
Mm.
which I found quite limiting. So, I've been always want to be a media composer. I want to always score music for films because the music as a visually impaired individual, music was always my has been always my trusted guide
Mm.
because it was 90s when I was a child. I'm a little bit old, I'm 35. I don't know. Uh,
35 is young, but go
uh,
ahead. Yes, it's all
okay,
perspective.
thank you. It's very kind of you. In 90s, TV screens are not that big, and the resolution was like a joke.
Uh-huh.
We don't have the Blu-ray players and 4K screens in that time,
Huh.
and it was hard to catch all micro gestures, mimics. So maybe there's something going on background and foreshadows the upcoming thing in this story, but it's
Mhm.
hard to
Mhm.
see from a 15-inch CRT screen. So sorry, I'm a nerd. And the music always were always there for me to make me understand what will happen next because score can tells you
Mhm.
that micro gestures, that
Mhm. Mhm.
transitions, that's the importance of the score. It translates the story with music
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
in a sonic way. So that those childhood years, I decided that I want to be a film composer because I want to do that by myself. I
Uh-huh.
want to
Uh-huh.
one who translates that story to the sonic area. It's really interesting for me. So it was really interesting for me, and I want to make it my career. But life is life. We always find something else to do to
Yeah.
until we find the thing that we always want to do. So
Right.
and
Right.
it took a while for me, but yeah, actually, let's skip the ghostwriting part because it's another story for a rainy day, let's say.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I can say that as a media composer, my real professional journey in the American territory started with Able Artists Foundation in 2020
Mhm.
with that with
Mhm.
that award because I was sitting in my studio just like I always do and
Yeah.
searching different softwares, plugins. As a respected nerd, I have to do those stuff on daily basis. And I found a video on YouTube recorded and published by Stephen Letnes, who is the founder and executive director of the Able Artists Foundation.
Mhm.
And he basically said, and I quote, "Hello, my name is Stephen Letnes. I'm a media composer and I have a visual disability called retinitis pigmentosa." It was a real watershed moment for me
Uh-huh.
because now I realize that a guy in Istanbul, I realize that there are some media composers in the United States who has similar conditions that I have. I'm not alone, so I'm not the only
Right.
instance of my species.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I,
Wow. So it's the first time you realized
yeah,
that
of course,
somebody else was relating to you and you were relating to them and you had that connection. Wow.
that was really important because
Yeah, sure.
until that I was thinking to be a library music composer.
Mhm.
I've been thinking to send my music to the publishing companies. They don't have to meet with me. They don't have to they don't have to judge me anyway because prejudice is a real thing and ableism, as we both
Right.
know.
Right. Right.
But
Right. Right.
at that very moment I realized that okay, I don't have to hide anymore because as an individual with disability in early ages of our lives, we first thing that we learn how to hide ourselves. And
Mm.
we spend a
Yeah.
lifetime to get rid of
Right.
that behavior, that attitude, that
Right. Right.
talent, that skill set from ourselves. And at that very moment, I realized that, okay, I'm not alone. So I don't have to hide anymore because there
Mm.
are some well established, successful composers out there who are even running foundations in the States.
Yeah.
So I've done two things that I have never done in my life. I applied to a foundation to be a member, and two,
Mhm.
I submit my track for the first time to a competition. That's I have never done that before.
Wow.
As a
Wow.
perfectionist, as a classical trained musician, we never be able to finish our works because they are never perfect. So
Right.
that's another wrong attitude that we have to get rid of. So, and a couple of months later, I named as the grand prize winner. I met with Steve.
Wow.
So, and the Able Artists Foundation maintains some connections with the publishers. I was able to connect with a publishing company called Hitless Music. I released a couple of music packs with them. I participated projects with Able Artists Foundation in next
Wow.
years,
Wow. Wow.
and then
Uh-huh.
Steve offered me a job in the documentary called Surpassing Sight, as you said. But it was the first project that I was able to work with Steve, and
Wow. Wow.
hopefully, I would like to think that way. I wasn't a train wreck for him,
You
so
say that again. You were.
I wasn't a train wreck for him, hopefully.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, that you weren't.
Yeah, yeah. Always I'm not,
Right.
but
Right.
yeah.
Right. Right.
So we worked more projects. I worked
Uh-huh.
as a
Uh-huh.
project lead for different Able Artists Foundation projects.
So Kamal, I think that. Sorry to.
Oh,
I hope
sorry.
it's
Please go
okay.
on. Of course.
So it sounds like in 2020, that's when things kind of shifted for you. And I think I remember reading something about what was it you said? It was really it was touching for me. It really struck a chord, as they say. It was after I think I was listening to a short clip of you speaking, and you were talking about this specific win. You said I was the grand prize winner of the
Of course.
AAF, and you described it afterward as that it was a magic moment. You said, "Oh, it was a magic moment for me." And I remember that I thought, now the color of things has changed for my career, and that made me smile with you, because I understand that sense of achievement, especially as a disabled composer. And I was imagining that this moment led for you now in 2020, more doors opened for you, right? And then I realized, oh, you also that's when you also became what was it? You were on the board of an organization called Ramped, right?
Yeah,
Which is a disability organization for professional music and entertainment professionals. Do you want to, yeah, share a little bit about?
of
You can,
course.
yeah, yeah,
Of course. Ramped is recording artists and music professionals with disabilities. That organization is the only organization in American territory works for the payment equality, visibility equality, and inclusivity equality for the disabled musicians and the music industry professionals with disabilities also. And
yeah.
I became a professional member last year. There are a couple of tiers in the ramped territory. You can be a community member, anybody can. But if you want to be a pro member, you basically submit an application, you create a profile in our website. Then our membership committee reviews your application. And if you, there are a couple of criterias that I am really don't want to get into that right
Yeah,
now because
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
in the
yeah.
membership committee.
Right,
But
right.
if they likes what they see, then you become a pro member. And I became a pro member last year. And when you become a pro member, you have a couple of things that you can. For example, you can be a part of subcommittees. Like I jumped into a PR
Oh,
committee.
committees, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, committee.
Yeah,
Sorry for my
yeah.
accent.
Oh, no, no,
Be
no.
merciful.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
I jumped into PR committee. We developed many projects at RAMP to increase the visibility of music professionals with disabilities. And this September, I became the member, one of the members of the leadership. Now I'm the secretary at RAMP, which is
Wow.
quite a big honor
Beautiful.
and privilege for me because now I'm speaking up for my community, for
Yeah,
my
yeah,
fellow
yeah,
musicians with disabilities, fellow composers with disabilities, and I'm in the decision making process, and it's really important. It's not, you cannot be a great musician. It's not it's never be enough.
yeah,
If we
yeah,
want to
yeah,
change the industry, it's really important that
yeah.
speaking up for ourselves, being in the decision making processes,
Right, right,
be the
right.
part of change. And thanks to Ramped and thanks to Able Artist Foundation, we will come to that again, hopefully, in this conversation. Now
Yes.
I'm in the heart of the decision making process for the music professionals with disabilities. It's really a unique privilege for
Yeah,
me
I
and
mean,
for my career.
It sounds so empowering, and I think it's, wow, really just an incredible time, to finally have access to all of these resources for disabled artists. I think it's finally, I think, we're sort of making, kind of we're showing our light. You had mentioned the word ghost ghost writing, right?
Yeah,
Is that, like usually we're kind of in the background, and I think it's
sure.
really, really special that we're in the forefront. It's beautiful to hear that you've taken that position. Kemal, I was reading also that because you're from Istanbul, right?
Hmm.
And I was reading that disability access there is also like a little bit challenging, maybe due to the result of the long history, maybe of also the city, the topography, right? The cobblestone streets and the current building codes, they haven't been updated. I mean, how is it for you? Navigating there, has it been difficult?
Yeah, actually, having an ancient city is not an excuse. First of all, I would like to make that statement because
Mm,
London is also pretty old. Paris is also pretty old. I'd never been Paris actually by myself, but
mhm,
yes, Istanbul is a city that has memories of couple of thousands of years. So
yeah,
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 it's a thing, but it can't be an excuse when it comes to accessibility. So it's all about design.
right,
You
right.
can you can find workarounds. However, that's the thing that my good people of my country still should do their homework, and they're still lacking to do their homework. But
Mm,
they will do that at some point. Never happen in a night. It's all about a
right.
mindset, shifting a
Mhm,
mindset and shifting methodology. Because
mm,
I think one of my friends from Germany said that when she saw the Istanbul for the first time, she told me that okay, they designed that city without taking under consideration three parts of the society: children,
mm,
elderly citizens, and the
mhm,
disabled citizens. So
mm. Wow, wow,
yeah,
wow.
they
They they left a huge chunk out.
yeah, of course, and
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
because as my dear colleague and friend Lachi, CEO and founder
Mm,
of the
mhm,
Ramped, told in her TED talk, I guess,
mhm.
yes, venues are inaccessible. I'm not superhero. I'm just trying to survive in an inaccessible venue, and I'm not strong. I'm not superhero. But you know what? You become elderly, and you have to deal with these inaccessible venues by yourself. Then you become superheroes or really really strong people. Because
Right, right.
at some point we all need that accessibility.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not about being disabled, being child, being elderly, being different, being A or B or C. It's
yeah.
all about accessibility. If we limit access, for example, if we stop translating books or academic papers to different languages, then only people will have access to that papers and books that the people only knows that particular languages. For example, an academician from Germany won't be able to read a paper written in Hong Kong in Mandarin Chinese, let's say.
Mhm.
But they can, the German academic can read that essay because someone translating it, or the technology helps us to translate that essay. Even the speech, thanks to recent AI improvement,
Yes, yes,
innovations.
yes. AI has.
In that vantage, in that regard,
Uh-huh.
translation is also a matter of accessibility, is also a tool of accessibility.
Right,
So
right,
it's so crucial, and it sits center of our lives. Without
right, right,
accessibility, none of us will able to survive. The
right,
thing
right.
is, as the disabled, as the people with disabilities, we know how to survive in an unfriendly environment.
Mhm,
That makes us
mhm,
different
mhm,
than the others.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, I think what you're trying to say is that disability access, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, disability access isn't just about disability or access. It's really should be for everybody, that everybody should have access to it. It isn't just about disabled people needing access, is
Yeah,
what I understood what you're
yeah,
saying. Yeah,
completely,
yeah, yeah,
completely.
yeah.
I just published an
Which is so
article
true, right?
at
It's so
yeah,
true. Yeah, people don't hear it enough. Yeah.
of course.
Sorry, you were saying that you published an article?
No worries. I just published an article at Ramp's website that
Mhm.
I basically argue that what if we all know Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, the genius. composer of the Western art music of the 18th century.
Mm-hmm.
He is a game changer. He died when he was 38, and he composed his first music when he was 5. In these 33 years, he composed 696 piece of music in his catalog:
Wow.
operas, symphonies,
Yeah.
concertos, and more. But what if Mozart's father was not a musician but a soldier or blacksmith?
Mm-hmm.
Then, do you think Mozart be able to be a successful composer in 18th century? Oh,
Mm.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because he accomplished to be a composer, he had access to the correct networks, to the instruments, to the tools that he needed, and a supportive family who also are musicians. So that accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
that accessible environment made Amadeus Mozart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Speaking of classical music, do you have any particular early musical influences that helped shape your music taste today? Yeah, is there anything now that sort of really warms your heart or inspires you when you're writing film score?
Yeah, well, it depends. For example, if I'm writing down something, not music, but like, let's say, an article or something, Mozart
Hmm. Hmm.
is my guy. Let's say Mozart.
Mm.
It's a scientific matter that Mozart music can help you focus your concentration. Really, the music of Mozart really helps to elevate your level of your concentration. It's a scientific fact that proved in different examinations, I guess,
Are
experiments.
you saying it's sort of like you also use it for meditative purposes to
Of
help you
course,
focus?
of
Ah,
course. But when
that's
it comes
great.
to music,
Yeah,
it really
yeah.
depends what I'm scoring at that particular moment. But
Uh-huh.
I can say that I'm in love with Tchaikovsky, of course, Beethoven in the classical, Gustav Holst, as all
Hmm.
films composers do.
Yeah,
And there's no way out to be fell in love with Dvorak. I think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Dvorak in American accent,
Uh-huh,
George
uh-huh.
Finn, and also my personal favorite, Rimsky-Korsakov. I
Yeah.
really in love with the late romantic Russian composers,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
from Tchaikovsky to the um, to the Korsakov, and the yeah. I mean, and
So
I
yeah.
forgot one of the names. Sorry, I'm
No,
struggling
no,
with
no.
the name.
Oh, no, no, it's okay. Maybe it'll come back to you as,
Yeah, of
we
course,
can come back around to it. But it sounds like, yeah, for the most part, you really do stay deeply connected to more of the classical pieces. But I was listening to some of your beautiful, beautiful pieces. But one of them had many string sounds, and I loved the tempo and the sort of increments of some of the tempos that I was listening to. And it reminded me also of maybe some more. I don't know, like contemporary, like maybe I forget the names myself, but maybe am I saying it right? Danny, is it Danny Elfman?
of
Are you
course,
from or Philip Glass?
of course.
The sort of a little bit of those elements in some of the I forget the one of the pieces, maybe the ancient was it ancient dance or
Uh-huh.
but anyway, it was really yeah, really beautiful. I mean, maybe I should say maybe would you like to share a clip? And if you would like to share a clip, which one would it be?
Ah, actually, please accept my apologies. As a composer, I always forgot names of my tracks. So
That's
because
fine. That's
yeah, because
okay. Yeah.
it's always start like 1M1 and ends like 2M50 version 15 conform to some
Oh my
nonsense,
gosh. Right, right.
and
It's a bit dizzying.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
or for example, you put a name for a track and the publisher change the entire names of the album and all the tracks in it.
Ah,
So
I see. I see.
practically, I always for keep forgetting the names of the tracks. I always check back my database or my,
Yeah,
let's say,
yeah.
BMI account catalog. But
Right, right,
I,
right.
I think I understand which song you're talking about. Maybe we can put a clip. But as a composer, I always in love with the old famous film composers like Danny Elfman, of course, John Williams, Harry
Hmm.
Gregson Williams, to Hans Zimmer, to Bear McCreary, my personal favorite, because they are all very brilliant,
Yeah,
extremely
yeah,
talented,
yeah,
extraordinary, remarkable composers that there's no way out. You always,
yeah,
when you
yeah,
start listening any of those composers' music, you basically fell in love with those.
yeah. So we're going to listen to a clip from one of your songs. So here's a clip. I know that our listeners would like to hear about the arts education that you received. Would you like to share a little bit about, where you got your training?
Yeah, of course. I trained in Istanbul, Turkey. As a side note, I always wondering to be a student in Berkeley School of Music.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
If anyone's listening out there, Dr. Rhoda, Daniel,
Yeah, it was a child Berkeley, one of the world's famous music schools, and it's really famous in
Yes.
Turkey. I never managed to submit an application to Berkeley. When I find an opportunity to be part of a podcast in Berkeley school, so I jumped to that
Ah,
idea because
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
it was
Well,
a
you never know. It's never too
yeah,
late,
yeah,
right?
never too late. I was really close in high school years, but life has other plans for me,
Yes, yes.
unfortunately. But I
Mhm.
still have plans because there are a lot of now there's postgraduate programs. Some of them are online, and so
Yeah, yeah. It's really incredible. I find also, after during COVID, ever since the whole virtual classes and the programs and fellowships, it seems that we have more accessibility, especially for people with disabilities. And I've found that this has helped me too, to be on virtual even right now. So I do see that there's hope, and it inspires me to know that there are much more programs that we can access at any age,
yeah,
whether
of
it be
course.
academics or podcasts like this. So it's really incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, what you say is really important because because you asked the question how about my training in Turkey, and having have a level of education in Turkey with disability is a really a unique challenge. We and
Yes.
in like
Yeah.
a decade ago, it was even more challenging because, for
Hmm,
example,
hmm.
some respected schools weren't accepting or not accept students with disabilities. They can't do normally, and it's
Yeah.
against the law. But
Uh-huh.
in the fine art faculties or school of music, because they can accept or deny you with an
Hmm.
interview, they use that power to deny each student with
Yeah,
disability, each
right.
applicant with
Right.
disabilities, and I was one of those
Right.
in decades ago. So
Yeah. Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though I was able to be accepted by the most respected, most famous schools in Turkey,
Hmm.
I had to go a mid-level school in another side of my
Mm.
country because their policy is suitable. But
Uh-huh.
for example, when I want to arrange some one-on-ones with the different academics from different schools in like in United Kingdom or United States,
Yeah.
I've learned that I've learned that the accessibility in training is taken more seriously by those countries and institutes.
Uh-huh.
So online technologies, internet technologies are really important to provide that accessibility. But at some point, all schools has to also shift their attitudes and make their campuses accessible. I know that in American territory, the campuses are already way accessible than I used to. But I know
Uh-huh.
it's not like 100% perfect, but and it can be. And it really warms my heart that schools institutes, universities are willing to
Be accommodating,
be
right,
accommodating and be
right,
more
right.
accessible, be improved. It really warms my heart. I met many friends and colleagues who graduated from Berkeley, from different universities,
Mhm,
postgrad
mhm,
postgrad programs with disabilities. It's really important. Also, it's kind of it's democratic, because traveling to another country with a disability. Let's say
mhm,
if you're a wheelchair user, if you have a guide dog like me, like I have,
mhm.
uh, can be challenging. Not that challenging, but it has all challenges. An online option can provide something else because now with that option, we can have more talented musicians, more talented professionals in different areas because because they don't have to travel, they can decide to apply that program online. So they can educate themselves, they can get their degree, and they can be a more productive and respectful member of the society. It's really important.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all access to education here, providing options.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's incredible, like you said, the work that you're doing, you're really at the forefront of, and also witnessing the changes happening, and you're such a huge part of that, is really, it's inspiring. Sorry, hold on one second. I just lost my spot and I wanted to ask you something because you had
Of
mentioned
course.
something about that you have a guide dog.
Yeah.
And I thought, "Oh, wow, how long have you had your guide dog, and does your dog, listen to some of the music you compose, or, does he have any input to
Let's say,
share
of course.
some of his opinions with you?"
Actually, first, she's a lady.
Oh, she oh, pardon me.
She name is Bulut. Bulut means
Blut.
cloud in English. So because she looks
Oh.
like a cloud, uh, and she's a real drama queen, by the way.
Uh-huh.
She's a Scorpio. I think it tells a lot.
Uh-huh,
She
okay.
is yeah. It's just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Fun.
actually she is the seventh guide dog in duty in Turkey on duty in Turkey. The program is pretty new in Turkey. We have
I'm
just
sorry, wait, did you say only the 7th guide dog in Turkey?
Yeah, we have total nine.
Wow.
We have nine guide dogs in total right now, and she
Wow,
is the
wow,
seventh. The program is
wow.
a decade long because the program is pretty young, pretty new, but they're working hard.
That's
We
incredible.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
been together in for 3 years. Having a guide dog in Turkey, like its own has own challenges. We all are acting like ambassadors
Uh-huh.
in Turkey because we
Right.
are the ones who are telling what a guide dog is, what a service animal is to the Turkish fellows, let's say.
Yeah.
Last year we traveled to the United States for a couple of months. It was a great relief for my guide dog. It was her vacation, not mine. Because everybody has a fundamental understanding and awareness about service animals.
Sure.
We were in Los Angeles for 4 months
Oh,
last
wow,
year, and
wow,
it was a great experience. We went to
wow.
concerts and everywhere with my lovely guide Blut. So it was fun.
That
But in
sounds so
Turkey,
beautiful.
we're educating people. We're
Yeah, yeah,
introducing the service animal concept to them, and they're learning. Not that
yeah,
bad. Somehow it can be harsh, but they are learning. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm glad that we're making progress there.
yeah, yeah. No, that's really wonderful. Yeah, I didn't know that there were such a limited amount of guide dogs, and that's such a new concept, only a decade long. So it's really,
Yeah, yeah.
really, really beautiful. And finally, might you have some advice you'd like to share with some of our younger disabled artists out there who might just be starting out?
Yeah. Let me try to combine with what I am doing at this very moment in 2020, late 2024.
Hmm.
First and most important piece of advice that I can give my fellow future colleagues, let's say, or my fellow colleagues with
Hmm.
disabilities. Stop hiding. It's the most
Hmm.
important, most crucial, and I know the hardest part. It's hell of a task to achieve. I know that. It's really hard to stop hiding, standing up, and show yourself to the world like who you are with your disability, with your amazing talent. But it's the most important part. Why? Because we all, on the face of the world, as the human being, although we always terrified from the unknown,
Yeah.
terrified by the unknown. we always need the colors, need the uniqueness. Otherwise, we all be same, and there won't be a room for creativity, innovation, invention, anything.
Yeah.
There was no room. There won't be any room for poetry, for novels, or anything without
Mhm.
colors, uniqueness, different challenges. These things are make life interesting. So a disability is not a medical model, is not a charity model. It's a social model. It's our color, it's our uniqueness. So we have to
Yeah.
show it. Like we all like to say at Ramp, we recognize disability with the capital D. So it's your
Mm.
uniqueness. It's your way. Think
Your
Michael,
strength.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Think
Right.
Michael Petrucciani. Think Andrea Bocelli. Think
Mm.
Ludwig von Beethoven, who is
Yeah.
the composer of the Ninth Symphony with hard of hearing in
Yeah.
beginning of 19th
Right.
century,
Right. Right.
and they had accessibility instruments. He had accessibility instruments designed for himself to be able to continue his works. After he composed Third Symphony.
Mhm.
Also,
Mhm.
there are many talents in jazz era, in EDM era, in all genres, in all different art forms. You will find creators with different disabilities, either visible or invisible. So
Mm.
please stop hiding.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah. Yeah.
stop being shy about your accessibility needs. We have accessibility needs and we deserve them. So companies, schools, clients are obliged to provide that tools, that instruments to us. It's how we work. Those tools are make us productive, make
Mm.
make us how can I say make productive and efficient. Yeah, and
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that way we can show our talent. That way we can create some brilliant stuff. No matter.
I think
Please go on.
sorry to interrupt. I just think it's so incredible what you're saying. And part two, I think, in asking what you need, asking for accommodations, I think, oh, it's such an important part to the part one of what you were saying in Stop Hiding, and I think those two parts, I see them slowly working together, as you say, in like 2024 and, soon to
Yeah,
be
of,
2025.
of
And I
course.
feel like this is the shift, even this podcast itself, right? That Berkeley is allowing and, I mean, offering is the word in such an incredible way to the mainstream right now, I think is so pivotal. Um,
Yeah, I have
and it just,
friends.
yeah.
I have friends that who giving lectures about how to use Logic Pro X without touching mouse or
Mhm.
looking screen. I have friends who giving lessons about teaching how to use. For example, it's a really film scoring or virtual composition
Yeah.
nitty gritty about how to use native instruments complete control with accessibility features
Uh-huh.
without using the computer screen. I have friends
Wow.
who are mixing engineers completely blind, or
Yeah.
I know violin players, professional violin players with limb differences.
Mhm.
So there's no way that things can stop us, because
Right.
if there's a problem, we can find, as human beings, we can find solutions. We can't fly. It's an obvious fact. It's a funny fact that we can't fly. Yeah, obviously we can't fly. So we
Right.
invented something called aircraft. So we can fly around using a device. Aircrafts are some kind of accessibility device, accessibility instruments to
Right.
solve a problem of ourselves, which is lack of flying by
Uh-huh.
ourselves.
Right, right, right.
Because
Yeah, yeah, it's so incredible the way, you are also conveying the message to the public by, saying it's so simple. It should be so simplified, right? And yet it still isn't, but it should be so simplified in the way in which we should just be asking for what we need, right?
yeah, and
It's really really beautifully
of
said.
course, of
Thank
course.
you.
And the
Yeah.
third part is the most important part. Because yes, we want to ask, and yes, it's simple, but we have to tell the people. because we are the specialists. We are
Mm.
the architects of the future,
Mhm.
of the future that we want to live in. We want to live. So we are the ones who obliged to tell the story, express themselves, and they increase the awareness of the society with about the importance of accessibility. Because that way, I was a guy, a trained musician, a former ghostwriter, sitting in his home studio, but
Hiding,
hiding in his
right?
home studio, yeah. But
Yeah,
become a media composer
yeah.
who synced music tracks with the toy company Mattel,
Mm,
synced music with the TV networks like Discovery and Comedy Central. I
mm,
worked as additional music writer in a documentary called Possibilities, directed by Bill Serene. Another feature movie that I can't share the name at this very moment because it's not completed yet.
right,
But
right.
it's all accomplished with with two things:
Mhm,
a foundation from 10,000 miles away, and a gift from a dearest friend that made me compose a piece of music and submit to that competition organized by
mm,
Able Artists Foundation 4 years ago. And
uh,
this month, I became the board member of the board of directors at Able Artists Foundation because I decided to stand up myself. I decided to jump into each opportunity, each adventure that I can find a place for myself
yeah.
and share my music and my personality, my brand as a blind media composer to the rest of the world.
Oh wow, Kamal, it's it's really been such a pleasure having you on our show, and you are a gift. You are a gift, and congratulations, congratulations on being honored and being the grand prize winner in the Artist Able Foundation. Yeah, thank you so much for making the time today to speak with us.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, Rivki. Thank you so much to inviting me to this brilliant podcast series. I really want to thank to Berkeley for uh, producing this brilliant podcast series. We need these places to communicate with each others, with the industry, with the world, with the fellow talents who are not started to build their careers, their lives yet, but they are our future colleagues, future collaborators. Only thing that we need to do to connect with them. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamal. To follow more of Kamal's work, you can find them at www.kemal, Kemal, Gorey, Gorey.com. Thank you all for tuning into the Able Voices podcast. Please do join us next time to hear the latest on these wonderful up and coming artists living with disabilities who are currently making incredible change and impact right now in the creative industry. And here is to looking towards a future where disability and arts culture is simply just part of the norm. My name is Rivky, and we'll see you next time.
Able Voices is a production of the Berkeley Institute for Accessible Arts Education, led by me, Dr. Rhoda Bernard, the founding managing director. It is produced by Daniel Martinez del Campo. The intro music is by Kai Levin, and our closing song is by Sebastian Batista. Kai and Sebastian are students in the arts education programs at the Berkeley Institute for Accessible Arts Education. If you would like to learn more about our work, find us online at berkeley.edu/BIAAE or email us at BIAAE@berkeley, that's LEE.edu.